Hey, welcome back, everyone. We would love to hear from each breakout room. Again, just like a summary of what anything interesting that you noticed or talked about. Could we hear from anyone from group one? And that was Matthew, Michael, Robin, and Stacy.
We had a wide range of experience. Third year teaching science, first year teaching period, several years, AP, different careers, and I think Board of Ed type, I don't want to misquote, but somehow working for the state education. So we had a wide range. It sounded like modeling was relatively new to myself and Stacy, but not necessarily to Michael or Robin.
Thank you. How about group two? That was Eric, Erica, Lindsay, and Marlene.
I think I can take it. I hope my mic is working. I just had some sound issues. Good deal. I was excited because I'm from Ohio and there's a couple others from Ohio there in the room with me, which was great. And some of us have seen others do modeling, while others have only heard of good things about it. And we are pretty across the range in terms of years of experience teaching, from a newbie teacher to someone who's working at the state level and everything in between. So we're, I think, all just curious to find out more.
Thank you, Eric. How about from group three?
Is that is Danielle in that group? That's
Yes,
me. I
you
can
are.
see. Okay.
Danielle.
Hi. So in our group we had a teacher of chemistry and mathematics. Um, we had a scientist, astronomer, and computational data scientist, maybe, and then a science educator at a university. So two university and one teacher. And one question that popped up: what is modeling? Because modeling is like, what is this about? Because it is what um, Kathy, I'll call does every day as part of her work as a scientist, and then um, the two of us in education said, well, it's about how do we get our students to learn this practice, and how do we structure kind of the instructional sequence, if you will, to help them to use models to kind of learn and do science.
Thank you so much for sharing, Danielle. Beth and I wanted to introduce ourselves too after you all did. So I'll start. I'm Emma Mitchell. I teach in Connecticut at an all-girls school, an independent school. I teach physics and computational stuff, coding. I'm the science department chair. I've been modeling since 2020. I took a distance learning class during COVID, and I fell in love with it immediately. I just knew immediately I wanted to change everything about how I teach, and so I did, because 2020 was a year of reinvention. So I just changed everything, and it was hard and it was great and it was so worth it, and I have not looked back. And now I'm really excited. I've taken as many workshops as I can, led a couple workshops, and yeah, I'm really excited to be part of the AMTA and to be here with you all. And I'll hand it off to Beth.
Hi, I'm Beth Burns. I teach chemistry and forensic science in basically Western New York. So I teach outside of Rochester. And I took my first modeling class in 2019. It was in person. It was fantastic. Took it in chemistry. And then the next year we were going to do the chemistry 2 workshop. And instead of being in person, we went online because of the pandemic. And I've done a little bit of modeling with my, I used to teach a local chemistry course. So I did it with them, kind of modifying it a little bit. And I am teaching an honors chemistry section this year. We're doing much more modeling, kind of like getting the kids used to the process of experimenting and then discovering. It's been really good, and I'm really excited. I did workshop leader training this past summer, and I'm looking forward to leading some more workshops.
I have just posted, I got a message from Matthew just now asking where I am in Connecticut. I'm at the Ethel Walker School, which is an all-girls school in Connecticut in Simsbury. Beautiful school, though it's very dark. I actually live on campus there. I'm at it's a boarding day school. So if you're familiar with independent boarding schools at all, I sort of live here and I'm here all the time. Anyway, it's a whole life choice. I just posted in the chat. Oh, Sophie. Oh, cool. I posted in the chat the link to the slides that we're working off of tonight. So you can open those up. Rather than share our screens, we would rather see all of you and be able to interact. So I'm posting it there as a link so that you can interact with it that way. I'm going to start right on the agenda slide on slide 3. You may have noticed we haven't actually talked about what modeling is yet or introduced any of that vocab and stuff. That was intentional. We wanted to lead this webinar kind of how we would lead like learning something in our class. So starting with the conversation, starting with everyone's ideas and experiences about it. And then we'll use that to kind of build a clearer picture of what modeling is toward the end. So you can see our agenda here. We've already done item number 1. We are about to do a little mini model, some whiteboarding and things like that so that you can experience it firsthand. And then we'll talk in teacher mode about what that all means. Anything to add there, Beth?
Just that we have, if you think of questions,
Oh, yeah.
you can either throw them in the chat or towards the end of our slide presentation, we actually have like a parking lot slide. If you have a question that you want answered, you can stick it there or you can put it in the chat. I'll keep an eye on that.
Yeah. We might be better at the parking lot than at the chat. We'll try both, but there is a parking lot and it's toward the end of the slide deck on slide 18. And we'll do our best to be able to answer those questions in the parking lot toward the end of this webinar. And if we can't, we'll happily stay after to answer any questions or share our email addresses and things like that so we can make sure that you are feeling covered. We are going to if you've taken a modeling workshop before, and if you haven't, we hope that you will. One kind of hallmark of a modeling workshop is student mode versus teacher mode. So when we are in student mode, you are acting as a learner, you are a student. You can embody one of your students if you have any characters that you would like to impersonate, or you can just be yourself and come from a place of authentic learning and curiosity. It can be frustrating to be in student mode because you have this itch as a teacher to talk about the process and talk about strategies with students. And we promise we will go into teacher mode in the second part of this webinar. So we will get there. I put a little baseball hat on this slide to represent a student, and you'll see a graduation cap on this slide if we are in teacher mode. So right now we are in student mode. We are going to put you back in breakout rooms, probably the same breakout rooms, those should work pretty well, to discuss the urgent question of whether cereal is a soup. So think about it, be opinionated. We're going to have we have whiteboards later in this slide deck. If you look on slides 5, 6, 7. So your whiteboard will correspond to the group number that you are. So group 1 will go to whiteboard 1. And so on. And we would like for you on your whiteboard to put your name somewhere in the whiteboard, doesn't have to be huge, and come up with an answer to the question of whether cereal is soup. And it would be great if you could think of multiple different representations, different ways to represent your response as a group. What questions do we have? Or Beth, what am I leaving off here?
We will post what needs to go on your actually you can see it on in that mini model. What on your whiteboard needs to be your participant names in your answer, like Emma said, using multiple representations.
Do any participants have questions? Great. We will give you probably 7 to 8 minutes to work on this, and Beth and I will dip in and out of rooms, and we will see you all back soon. Hi, everyone. Welcome back. We see some great things on your whiteboard, and we would love to hear from each group. Just an overview of what you talked about and what you chose to put on your whiteboard. Could we hear from anyone from group 1?
So 2 of the 3 of us were driving, so our whiteboard looks a little empty because I wasn't fast enough with my keys and talking too much. But we talked a lot about how we define soup, whether it's is it defined by the fact that they're just a mixture? Does it defined by the fact that they have different compositions, like protein versus grains? Does it matter if cereal is in the box or the bowl? And so we didn't land on a yes or no, but more of a what's your definition?
Yeah. And one of the sticky points was the cereal could be cereal. The point of is it a box or a bowl is presence or absence of a liquid. So is it cereal in milk or is it cereal in a box?
Okay.
So yeah.
Anyone build off of that idea?
I asked a similar question, I think, in group 3, where we were talking about it they were talking about it for a while, and I was taking it in because I didn't know what the heck to say. And then I noticed they were all saying similar things about cereal, and I asked, are we assuming that we are talking about cold cereal? Because I have oatmeal very often, and so to me, I could be more convinced that oatmeal is a soup than cold cereal. But just which one are we talking about, or all? I don't know.
Our group also talked about all of that, but also that there are cold soups in soup in the traditional sense. Like when you think of like a pumpkin soup, it's usually hot, and then we have cucumber soups or like some fruit soups, somebody said in our group. I've never encountered a fruit soup, but it exists. So it
Tomato.
really does.
Yeah.
I've had watermelon soup.
Tomato-based soup too.
Yeah, gazpacho.
Yeah. Oh, gazpacho.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't even, yeah. But yeah, I think we basically came to the conclusion that it really depends on how you're defining these words in your question, and you have to agree on that first before proceeding.
Would anyone else like to add on to that idea or respond to something?
I think we thought I think we agreed that we needed to think about what a soup is
Okay.
and kind of determine the characteristics of a soup, determine the characteristics of cereal once we agree what we're a reference for cereal. As in, is it plain cereal? Is it cereal in, for example, for our group, in milk? And then we can compare and contrast and decide if that was the case, and if it is or it is not.
Who can take a first stab at defining what they would like our definition of soup to be, or a cereal?
I like to start with a mixture.
Okay. Can you say a little more about that? Yeah.
A mixture. So a cereal, let's say if I think about Cheerios, I think about a homogeneous mixture because they're all kind of the same, right? It's got a bunch of different same things in a box. If I think about Captain Crunch, that'd be the same. I'm thinking about what my kids like. But if I think about the one that has the marshmallows in it, then I'm thinking about more of a heterogeneous type of mixture because there are different things in it. And so a soup, though, is always it's got a liquid and it's got stuff in it. And the stuff could be what Lindsay in my group said, like it could be a protein, it could be a vegetable, and it could be a grain. So it's got a bunch of different things all together. And then, but it's in a liquid.
I would like to say yes to Danielle's point and add on to that I think soup should also include that the solids or whatever is in the soup is soaked in the soup. So it has to, I guess, absorb some of the liquid in the soup.
And I would like to add on and say a soup has a hot temperature, or like it's eaten when it's like boiled, if that makes sense. It has to be like, you cannot eat it raw like with cereal.
Okay.
I'd like
I
to,
would disagree with that. I would
But
disagree
the
with
only
that.
reason why I think that is because of like when I know from historical like culture, and this is why another thing I've talked in our group is like where did these words arise from? Because like I know that growing up, when you would get sick, they'll tell you, oh, go eat a hot soup or have soup so it could help you feel better. And so like you don't usually hear go eat cereal to feel better. You usually hear, oh, if you're hungry, eat cereal. So I don't know if like maybe there's a historical context to it, but that's why I said maybe warm and hot. Maybe because if you also look at the definition of soup, it does specify that it's boiling.
Yeah, so I agree with the connection to the health, like we say, go eat the warm soup. But what I disagreed with was that, you know, not all soups are hot. So some soups are cool and not boiled before they're eaten. So
But even the soups that we've named that we eat cold have been cooked prior. So that fits in your definition that like pumpkin soup was mentioned. Pumpkin has to be cooked and then cooled before we eat it.
But does
I
it
want to
have
give,
Not
to be cooked?
necessarily cooked as a soup. It is cooked and then pureed and then cold stuff added to it. It is not cooked as far as what I did. When I ate a cold soup, it was the vegetable, whatever vegetable it was, and I forget what it was, a squash or something. It was the squash was cooked separately as a squash, and then it was pureed, and then like liquid added to it, and that was our soup. I don't think it was heated and then refrigerated or frozen or something.
yeah, and I would give the example that I gave earlier of gazpacho. That's a raw soup that is raw. I mean, veggies that are just pureed, so no cooking whatsoever.
Anyone else like to add on? It sounds like we're not all in agreement, I think, but it sounds like one proposal has been a soup has components or some part of it that was maybe cooked beforehand, and either things were added to it or things were cooked together with it. Do I have kind of a summary of what we've talked about so far? Am I missing anything?
Didn't like the mixture part.
Could you reiterate that? So the mixture, say a little more about that, just to clarify.
That it's a mixture of different kinds of things together, combined together in particular ways.
Okay.
So
And
there
that's
is spaghetti sauce, a soup.
okay. Ooh. So if we have a
liquid, yeah,
and a liquid, great. So if we as a class have started kind of putting together our model of what a cereal and a soup are, it sounds like we're not at a complete consensus, but we're a little farther than we were a few minutes ago. And we can use this sort of model that we're starting to build to make some predictions. So for example, according to our definition, someone mentioned spaghetti sauce. Would spaghetti sauce be a soup or a cereal? What do you all think?
a soup.
Closer
Why do
to
we
a
have
soup
to
than a
only have
cereal.
2 options?
Okay. Closer to a soup than a cereal. What do others think?
Do we have to have 2 options? Can't
What
we
would
have a
another
third
option?
option?
Like
Or a
what?
fourth or a 10th?
Can you say that again?
Could we have 3 options or 4 options or 10 options?
What do you all think?
so to
You mean
piggyback off of what Kathy said, we had a productive discussion, even though we got off task in group 3, and what is the purpose of the question and whether or not we are trying to propose a definition or if we are trying to sort it in a definite amount of categories. So I had heard of the argument of all food on earth can be divided into soup, salad, or I just blanked on the other sandwich.
Huh.
And that you can make an argument for those 3 categories. And Kathy's argument that was so smart in our group, which is like, what is the point? Are we defining this for the purposes of like a Google definition, or are we just trying to put it in one of 2 categories, one of 3 categories? So I think we have to answer that first.
Mhm. Thoughts, either a response to Erica or further discussion on spaghetti sauce?
I think that's when it comes down to like if you're gonna categorize something, like what would be that, like what would be the requirement? Like I know, like for example, like if you have a student transferring to your high school, like would they go into 9th grade math or 10th grade math? How would you determine that? So you would like look at the specifications of those definitions. And I think spaghetti falls more under it being a soup than a cereal because of the temperature argument. But again, I think I'm just using what people build up on it. It's not like I made up the word.
Right. How about using our model that we've started to put together? How about a smoothie? Cereal
A
or
soup. A soup. I think of both cereal and spaghetti as a soup because they are in a liquid. I mean, they're liquid. They're still liquid, and they have other types of ingredients in them, whether they are chunks or pureed or whatever, that are mixed together to come up with a new whole, if you will. So.
Thank you all so much for humoring us with this discussion. We are going to, I'm sensing an itch to be in teacher mode. We're going to zoom to the next slide where I have our graduation cap. We are going to put you back in breakout rooms for the most fleeting of minutes, just to chat about what the point of this was, things that you noticed, connections you can make between this and what you know of modeling, what questions you have, what strategies you've noticed, and then we'll come back and talk about it, and then we'll talk about this in the modeling process for the rest of our chats. You are back in rooms for just, I really think 1 to 2 minutes. Hey, y'all, welcome back. Sorry to jerk you from your rooms. We want to hear what y'all were talking about. What have you noticed?
Lindsay, I think you should share what you shared in our group.
Oh.
I put Lindsay, I had to put her on the spot, right? Sorry, Lindsay, I guess. But she made a really good comment about there were no right, you didn't tell us if our answers were right or wrong.
Thank you, Danielle.
I like to add that I like how like you come in with like you get to share the knowledge you already know on the topic and have a discussion about it before you like introduce to the ID. And so it's like, what do you know about those two IDs?
Thank you, Marlene. Anyone else? Really great point so far.
I thought about how, you know,
Um,
it's building on our ideas, but also inviting us to, so inviting us to listen, kind of think about how we agree. So evaluate others' ideas and using all ideas as an initial model. So taking all ideas and using them as an initial model that then we could practice to determine, you know, if something else was a soup or something like that.
I think Michael had a good comment. Michael, do you want to share what you said? Or
Yes, basically, we shared each of our preconceived notions about this. And the idea is to eventually come together and bring it tighter and tighter and tighter in definition. And that's where I think we were headed if we'd had a little bit longer time.
Yeah. It's tough to build a model in 1 hour and building in time to build rapport and comfort jumping into discussion, which you all have doing such a great job with. Thank you so much. Modeling, you guys, I think hit the nail on the head with what our objective was for this. Beth, do you want to start us off on slide 10? I feel like I've been
Sure,
talking.
yeah. So modeling is definitely student-centered. It's a student-centered approach. And it helps guide the student learning so they bring their ideas, like you mentioned, and then they learn kind of how to kind of put things together. So then once they have built or come up with a model to explain either a lab experience or some phenomena that they've seen, to then apply that model to new situations and deciding whether or not you need to change the model or modify the model to fit new evidence or new experiences. So you're kind of, I think it's probably more so in physics, you're building and modifying the model as you go through the year. Same thing in chemistry, we do kind of a historical approach and start kind of building the theories behind chemistry kind of as chemists had discovered them through history. And you always want to do an activity before you teach a concept. You want to get out what they know, you want to understand what their like misconceptions are. And then you also want to get them to get the understanding or the concept in their head before you start introducing vocabulary. So it's kind of a building process as you're going through the information.
Yeah. By the time we talk about vocab and things like that, they already know what the thing is and they can describe it. And so when we finally give them the vocab word, they're like, oh, that's a much quicker way of saying that thing we've been talking about this whole time. And it's like a relief for them and they remember it so much easier. On slide 11, so it starts with building a model. Again, we did this so quickly. And we only had a few minutes to build our model of cereal and soup, but normally we would spend much more time developing a model as a class. It takes several days to a week for them to really put that together. And so hopefully you can kind of see that and translate it. And we can talk about, we don't have time to talk about how this can work in every single content area. And the goal is to develop the skills and understanding of modeling to be able to apply it to any content area as you can. But we start with some hands-on experience. We learn how to represent it. Students kind of invent ways of representing this phenomenon they're investigating graphically and diagrammatically and verbally, and then eventually algebraically. And so that goes through like a series of whiteboarding and class discussions. And there are all kinds of different strategies for that you develop as a modeler. And that a workshop can really help you refine over a period of weeks, like how to practice that and become really effective with that. Am I forgetting anything? Beth?
No, I think, yeah, there's symbols and yeah, representation, different ways of expressing what they've experienced.
Yeah. And the first experience in science is often a lab or a hands-on activity. And that starts with the discussion to get what students' ideas are first. And then it kind of spirals through from there. It could also be something besides lab. It could be like a card sort or some picture or diagram that they're investigating. So it can be really anything that they get to experience together as a class.
Or even if people are familiar with POGLs, you could use a POGL before or in place of a lab or activity.
Yeah. On slide 12, our modeling cycle. So we only made it through probably the observe phenomena and ask questions. We did not have time to observe or interpret data, but that's what part of the modeling cycle would be. So in physics, for example, I'll have students observe the motion of a buggy, a constant velocity, like battery-powered car. We'll talk about ways to sort of keep track of its motion over time, what they're interested in looking at. I'll kind of steer the discussion toward the equipment that we have. We'll kind of figure out a way to record its motion over time. They will whiteboard what they're noticing. We'll have a class discussion, and out of that class discussion will come like a model of constant velocity, for example. And like we can make predictions using that model, and then it kind of spirals from there. So each thing that we build helps us we can test sort of the limitations of our model. For example, we saw that like spaghetti sauce does not fall neatly into our model of cereal and soup, right? It might be something else. So our model might not be complex enough to really encapsulate spaghetti sauce. So we might need some further investigation, some further refining of our model. So over time, we can really develop a model complex enough to pinpoint what we're interested in and make further predictions. Anything else that I'm forgetting here, Beth?
No, I think that's good, but I think we got 5 minutes before our 8 o'clock is up.
So true.
But, so if we go on to slide 13, like the tools of the trade, it's collaboration between the students and working together and learning to work together, and then putting their ideas, getting their thoughts out of their head and onto a whiteboard. And there's different strategies. And we have some pictures on the next slide of our students doing whiteboards and what whiteboards they used. But after we're done whiteboarding, we always have the kids do a board meeting. So you have the whole class standing around looking at the boards and asking them kind of like what we did. What do you notice? What's similar? What's different? And talking through that and kind of coming to consensus. And we also put a link to an article. It's called the Talk Science Primer, and it's a way to help help kids like stimulate discussion in class. All right, I'm going to throw it back to Emma for the next.
These are pictures from Beth's in my classroom on slide 14, just of what modeling looks like. What a model for me was like a huge sigh of relief to not have to lead and like lecture and be the center of attention all the time, because I actually really don't enjoy that. So now I have all this time to take cute pictures of my students because they are engaged in discussion and they don't need me as much. So I've moved more of like from the stage on the stage to a guide on the side kind of role. So my students spend a lot of time whiteboarding and discussing, and they are so used to it now. They'll come to my classroom and do it by themselves, whether I'm there or not, which happened today. So they'll just sort of come, they've sort of become more confident in their own abilities, and they're so much more collaborative and willing to jump into discussion. And Beth has a few examples of whiteboards from her class. Do you want to say something about that, Beth?
Yeah, they were just, I'm trying to look, chemistry. We did like a heating curve, like when it's converting from a solid to a liquid and then to a gas, the boiling, melting and boiling point. And I think the second one, the one at the bottom there, was just drawing particle diagrams of what happens when you have different elements, and then if you just mix them together versus chemically combine them. So,
yeah. We know we're running out of time. There's a couple questions in the parking lot, and if you have any others, you want to add them there, and we can take some time after we wrap up to answer those. Just a shameless plug for the full workshop that's more than an hour long, starting up in January. If you're interested in learning more about modeling and how it can apply to any subject area, we'll have time to dive into that. So we will spend more time developing a model as a class related to science, not cereal and soup. And we will learn about how modeling can apply to whatever your content area is. The course culminates in a project where you will kind of develop a sequence, kind of like a unit that is modeling centered by the end of the 10 weeks. So you will feel equipped to put that together. And the course meets in January through March on Sunday evenings, Eastern, over Zoom. And Beth and I here will be co-leading it. And it'll also just like you guys found community tonight with each other in the breakout rooms and in our discussion, it has that same kind of vibe in a modeling course where you can meet like-minded, passionate educators who are curious about moving their teaching in a new direction. And so there's a link there. The link has information on the cost of the workshop and a sign up button. And with that, we'll happy to take your questions, whatever questions you might have for the next few minutes. And I think Beth and I can both stay after too, if anyone has any questions. Yeah.
And then just after the parking lot slide, I just wanted to point out there's links to modeling instruction. There's links to social media. And then before you leave, make sure you complete the survey that we have at the end. That would be really helpful. But I'll let you go ahead. Somebody had a question. I cut them off.
I think the only reason why I joined today's session is because I am a newbie teacher. I'm starting this year in high school. So I'm still trying to find a groove. And so I'm building off the curriculum that's already there. And I used OpenSci. And my problem with OpenSci is that I encountered that a lot of my students, like OpenSci, like is built in a way where the students have to drive their own IDs, kind of similar to modeling. But the difference is it's all more independent and it's based on like an inquiry phenomenon question. And I ran into the problem where like a lot of my students come in with not having certain type of knowledge they need to have. And so like I've noticed that there have been some loopholes where it may like I had some frustration moments with it. And so she was like, okay, maybe get introduced to this type of modeling, which is why I'm here today to learn more about it. And I do teach chemistry, so this is perfect that one of you teaches chemistry. So I would like to know more about your experience when you have students coming in with a not highly engage scientific knowledge, like chemistry knowledge? Like how is this model differ, or like why you chose this model over something like OpenSci?
This actually allows you can apply the modeling instruction. So when you become a member or join or do a workshop, they give you access for a year. They have activities that are all pre-built that help you build that that model, help you build that process. It's kind of more guided, I think, than like the OpenSci might be, where you just are given some stuff. This actually kind of helps you develop, and it gives you there's like teacher notes that give you the explanation as to why we're doing things in a particular order.
And if you take a workshop like with your content area, so there are chemistry, biology, and physics workshops, you will go through like a whole year of modeling as a student and as a teacher. So you'll do the activities in student mode, you'll discuss them as a teacher. So you'll leave one of those workshops really fully equipped to teach a full year course in whatever your content area is. In our Intro to Modeling Methods course, we'll learn about like sort of what is a model, how, like, what are some examples of it, how can we think about applying it to our subject area. And so we will gain skills in like taking sort of what your current, if you think of it as like a sequence of topics now, how can we reframe that from a sequence of topics to kind of like a sequence of models and like ways that students can describe the phenomenon you want them to get at. So sort of reorganizing the course or reframing it into being based around models that we develop and test and refine rather than kind of a list of topics.
And to kind of answer one of the questions in the chat is, how can you do an activity if you don't understand the concepts? Doing an activity and building knowledge together, the students are working together to understand. So they're helping each other out as they build their knowledge and understand the activities.
But if you don't know the topic, if you don't know anything about it, how can you do it? I participated in a space science physical activity. Granted, it was not done well whatsoever. It was done very, very poorly. But the point was that they did the activity before they taught us anything about it. And I was told we were, I think, supposed to be simulating what happens inside the sun and with the atoms. And they gave me a little bag and they said, when you meet this atom, give that atom what's in your bag. And I'm like, okay, what's that gonna do for me?
Yeah. So
and
you
so
need
I
to
gave
you
the
need to
bag
have
my other person, and then I did the dead bug thing. I laid down on the ground, and hands and legs up, because
you need to have an experience where you're making observations and you're just noticing, and then you're building that content knowledge with the help of the teacher to guide the students to get them to understand and build that understanding in their head.
Yep. And so it's important that everyone in class kind of starts at roughly, like, so you have some previous knowledge that you as a class have developed. It depends if it's the first model of the year you've developed or if you're like kind of midway through the year and you have some things you already learned. But for the very first thing that I do with my 9th graders is I show them a phenomenon. I ask, what do you notice about this? What do you see with your eyes right now, right? What are some things about it that we could measure? What are some things about it we could change? Like, what should we agree to do? Like, what should our experiment be? So I'm not assuming background knowledge about physics for our first physics lab. And then later, once we developed a model, now we have a model, we have an agreed upon definition of what constant velocity is, for example. And so now they sort of know what questions to ask for our next model. And it turns out the constant velocity model doesn't apply to all types of motion. So that model is going to break. We're going to rebuild it in a different way that does describe this next phenomenon. And so it's a matter of knowing where your students are and designing the model cycle for that. We recognize it's 8:04, so if you need to duck out, by all means, please do. If you can grab that survey link before you leave, that'd be great. Beth and I are still happy to stay on to answer any other questions.
Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Marlene.
So question for you.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm thinking about this class versus something during the summer, 2 weeks.
hmm
Where's my best bang for the buck?
What's your content area? What do you teach? You might just
Physics.
either would be helpful. It depends on your timing and if you are able to like travel to an in-person physics workshop. So over the summer, those would be like in-person workshops, and this course is virtual over Zoom. So it depends kind of on logistics, what's easier for you. The physics, like mechanics workshop will equip you, it'll equip you to teach a full year of physics, and you'll have done all of the labs or many of the important labs through that workshop. This course is more, there'll be people from all kinds of different content areas. We'll be talking about what is modeling. We'll do some examples of what models are. We'll talk about strategies for whiteboarding and class discussions and norms and things like that, which you would also get out of the physics workshop too. So it kind of depends really on sort of logistics and what you're hoping to get out of it, I think.
Yeah, are they mostly 3-week or 2-week?
It depends.
Very. Yeah.
I should not to discount our course, but I definitely would prefer to do an in-person.
Yeah.
You get to more act like a student, and you can really see yourself being in student mode and then in teacher mode. And you get to kind of experience how the kids would do it. So I started with a chemistry workshop. I didn't actually I took the Intro to Modeling course, I think last year about this time. But I did it after I had taken an in-person workshop.
Yeah. In-person workshops are invaluable. It will change the way you teach forever.
Yeah, life-changing.
Yeah. And I mean, I would say why not both? I know the money is a factor. So if you're able to get your feet wet through this course and then we will be encouraging every one of our enrollees in our course to take an in-person modeling workshop. It is life-changing. And it will equip you so well and you'll be with people who teach your same thing and are curious about it. So they're both helpful and they're different. And it depends on whether you're able to make it to an in-person workshop.
Yeah.
Which we recommend if at all possible. Yeah.
Okay.
Recording in progress.
And I liked in the parking lot, somebody put a question about why is it mostly around physics and chemistry and why not biology? They actually started with physics. That was the first course that they did all modeling. Then they started doing chemistry, and then biology is coming out. There is a biology modeling curriculum that they're working through. It's just biology is way more complex.
Yep.
All the things.
Yep. There are biology materials on the members' website. It just hasn't been as developed as much as physics or chem, but we're working on making it that way. And so if you are a biologist, please join us, take the workshop, and then join the team, and we can work on building something together, right?
I am fairly certain there are astronomy materials.
There's an astronomy workshop. I took it. It is great. It's a distance learning class, so you can take it from anywhere. I loved it. Computer science, there is not, as of now, just like a computer science workshop. There is one that I've also taken on, it's like physics through with computational modeling included in it. So it's called Physics First Computational Modeling with Bootstrap. And if you're interested, let me know and I can direct you toward that workshop. So they do coding. They use a language called Pirate, which is like a pedagogical coding language originally developed at Brown University, I think. And you kind of go through your first year of physics, but coding is completely sort of enmeshed into the curriculum. But it's not computer science proper. It's a physics class, not a coding class. And yes, someone put the link, I think that was Sue, put the link for where you can find workshops and distance learning courses, like the list of what's available.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Do the courses ever go over like using talk moves?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Any course or workshop that you take will go over using talk moves. Also like whiteboarding strategies, which we didn't have time to discuss, but like why, like this different, I call it like kind of choreography, like how you have students whiteboarding. There are dozens of ways you can do it, and it's really fun to play around with that. So we would go over that, and then same with talk moves and how to facilitate a discussion. Any course or workshop you take will go over that. And they will also kind of, over the course of the course, they'll have participants start to practice facilitating like discussions themselves, which is scary, but also really helpful. So like by the time, like, after seeing the workshop leaders do it many, many times, we would ask for volunteers to try to start practicing facilitating discussions. So yeah, we go over not just like what a model is and like the labs and content piece of it, but also like the how, right? So like how do talk moves help us to have discussion, and how can whiteboarding help us to move our ideas forward? Yeah, that's a really important part of modeling.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, nice. Thank you. Is there ever, sorry, one more
No,
question,
Wait,
but
no, fine.
is
Great.
there ever a discussion in any course about like when a student, let's say a student has autism and they have trouble staying on task with the topic, and like redirecting, and even when the whole class goes off topic, is
Yeah.
that covered?
We
Okay.
we have student mode and we have teacher mode. So in student mode, we try to sort of,
Okay.
as best we can, stay on task, even though I know that we're unruly teachers and we don't always do what we're asked to do. In teacher mode, and we're in like the parking lot, all of your workshops will have some, or courses will have some element of that. So where you could talk about individual scenarios, and talk about particular students that you're thinking of. You're like, how would I handle this? So we can kind of troubleshoot together. We also talk about not everyone's like, people are often worried if they're about to like completely revolutionize how they teach, right? What will be the reaction of my administrators, of my parents, and of like the stakeholders, right? So we talk about that, sort of how you can have those discussions. And also like teaching science modeling can be kind of lonely sometimes if you don't have those who are right near you as support. I'm in a bit of a modeling island where I am. And so we can talk about ways to get connected with a network and a community so that you feel support, even if you don't have that at your school. So we talk about the how, and we talk about like the meta of it all, and not just the material, for sure. Great questions.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Oh, he's saying goodbye. Bye. Thank you. Bye. Thank you.
Yes, I appreciate it. This was actually pretty cool. And I want to know now more about the soup, even though, like, so I
you.
like my way of thinking about it. But anyway, thank you.
Exactly. Thank you so much for your engagement. We
you.
really
All
appreciate
right.
it. Bye, Debbie.
Bye.
Thank you and bye-bye.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much.
Bye.